Hello, West Pacific Market Analytics, and it's Glenn coming at you here on Friday, February the 6th. Year's flying by. I don't want to waste a lot of time in the intro. Make sure you look at my crypto video and understand what I'm showing you there. Tune out all the talk out there. I'm telling you, nobody has a model to understand price and time. Only listen to those, and there are others that have good, solid data models that can truly show what price and time can and cannot do. I've been busy, haven't had a lot to update, doing a lot of data points on my member Destiny Trading Discord channel, West Pacific Market Analytics Discord channel with my members, where we're setting up and chasing opportunity here ahead once this market tells us to go in. And we'll look at some of that real quickly. If you want to get a hold of me, destinytrading@gmail.com. If you're interested, I can just send you some info, or of course on the Discord membership, or if you'd like me to speak on a podcast or join your team as an analyst, I'm open to that as well. Would love to work full time for a team again, or as a consultant, just let me know. Let's get into it. Let's not waste any time. Disclaimer again. All of these models and data points, of course, are for entertainment purposes only. Always do your own research and understand that markets are extremely risky these days, especially as we get into what could be a potential top here. So please read it. Okay, let's jump out of it here and let's go straight. I want to go straight here in the member list. Let's start here. We were over here chatting a bunch, but let's start here on the globe. I want to show you a couple things here. Let's start out on that, and then we'll get into it. I'm watching Europe really closely. We can see Europe here, right? You notice Europe here, this big move coming out of the 2022 low with the market. Europe rallied right up with it. It's now come outside. Notice we had this coming up right to the directional of circulation, the V channel, and then collapsing. But velocity was still rising. You notice that trend did come down, but velocity was still rising. We've now got a big breakout here above the collapsing V channel. And you notice how the candlesticks are just trading sideways here since about September, October. So we're seeing that same kind of trend in the American markets, and I'm just going to show that to you in one moment. So we're going to look at that. So first of all, I want to see Europe top out. That's got to be part of it. I was looking at Korea, this is just, I was talking to my members about this, and yes, I missed this trade because I've been working on these trade setups, and I was looking at this, and I said, man, this was an easy trade to spot. You can see how it got down to $26 here, but was way below the V channel, and you can see how it was doing this beautiful rolling bottom on the, even if you timed it here, you wouldn't have seen this, but it would have done this, because once you get this deep below the V channel, then price can then break out and rise up. It rose in. Look how it just went right up. So it went from $26 to almost $350 in less than 1 year. So there's opportunity out there. It's done now, of course. You don't want to enter this, but what it's showing is that there is a lot of opportunity out there in this market, and it's outside of the U.S. as well. So I just want to show you that. I found that really interesting. Sorry for that beeping. That was one of my members just coming in to post something. So if we get some beeps, that's because we're working here off of the Discord channel. Now I want to go, where do we want to go next here? Over to sectors maybe? Now that's healthcare. Let's look at that. Let's jump in here. Let's look at defense. This is something else we're watching, defense. So you can see defense now is topped out. Now this is the, looking at defense with the triple long defense stocks. So what's interesting is I see this leverage in everything. And that I think is really going to lead to the downside, because all over America, they triple leveraged up all these different sectors, and even over in London, they've leveraged up the American stock market. You can buy out of London, you can buy 5 times leverage in the S&P and the Qs, and that's outside of all the derivatives that nobody even talks about anymore. When this thing uncorks, when this leverage uncorks in the next year or so, it's going to get crazy, and it's coming. But you can see defense is topped out here. Like it topped out right at 93.50, right at the top of the collapsing momentum portion of DOC. That's where it has to price. It's done. So the defense stocks have now topped out. Ooh, nice run here, right? 1597 up to 93, riding right up the channel, right into the dock curve. So defense is done. Now look at healthcare here. Same idea. Healthcare is not as healthy as defense. Defense is always kind of a safe haven trade. Money, big money likes to run to sectors like defense. But you can see that that's now topped out, so that's not going to be a place to hide out. Healthcare too can do that, but you can see that we had this first rally back up. You notice here we came out, we came down here in 2023. We rallied back up to the topping dock curve. We dropped back in here into that sell-off of 2025, and now we've rallied back up again to the dock curve. So you see this idea of rally up, come down, rally up, and that's how it's going to be. And now healthcare is going to drop back down in 2026. Here's 2027. We're going to see another more aggressive sell-off in healthcare down here. So if you're in healthcare, it's topped out as well. Now, where are you going to hide? Well, there's places you can hide, or you can play a hedge type of strategy in the market. Gold, silver, it's all expensive. Could go higher. We're not here to talk about gold and silver, but we'll do that another time. So a couple of sectors there, you can see what's ongoing there. And that is just kind of interesting. I want to go, let's see if we can go. I don't know where I put this. I want to show you this because I found this kind of interesting too. Let's go into the group chat here real quick and see if I can find this model. Let's just go up and scroll up through some of this stuff we were looking at today. A lot of stuff we're going over here. We're talking a lot about the Bitcoin today because I think that was really important. I don't even know if I put that here. Let's see. We were looking at a lot of Bitcoin stuff here. So let's just go through this. I don't want to take a lot of time. If I can't find it, I can't find it. I should have pulled this up because I just wanted to take the time to show this to you. That was Palette. Oh, here it is right here. So we were looking at this. Now this is really interesting. You see China topped out here back in 2015. Now China has not gone any higher, right? It's down here, but it didn't make a new high. And then Russia topped out here, and then India topped out, and now we've got a top out here in Brazil, the US, Japan, Europe, which we just looked at, and the emerging markets. They're all topping together, all of them. So this is, in a sense, kind of the West, other than Brazil. It's interesting. Brazil's the last to top out of the BRICS. And now the rest of the world, or the West, US, Japan, and Europe, are topping out as well. Really interesting. That speaks to me a lot right there. That just absolutely screams at me. Now let's go over here into the QQQ SPY. And I want to show you this really important model right here. Okay, this is QQQ based, or the NASDAQ. And what I want to show you, I consider this to be one of the most important models because this is the advancing in the NASDAQ. And you notice back here we had this initial sell-off in 2022 that the velocity and the trend were still rising. And then notice how velocity topped out here around July, August of 23, and then just went sideways here. You see where I drew this line? Trend topping out, velocity topping out. And then, of course, price worked up into the V channel. We had this sell-off here in April, but it was still above. Now notice we got 1, 2, 3, 4 candles, and now a fifth candle here. Market can't go any higher. And it looks like finally velocity and trend are going to roll over. So I want to see the velocity and trend roll over in this, and how fast it'll break, and the market will then begin to head lower. And what's interesting is the candle back here in November was a gravestone doji, and then we had a spinning top, and then we're going to have to see, of course, how this candle sets up for February. So those are topping candles, gravestone, spinning top, into this aggressive. We can't go higher. So I find that really interesting. And then you can see here on a closer up, this is a little bit different time frame for that same model. We're just grinding sideways here. Look at this is September, October, November, December, January. Look at the market's just going nowhere here. It's just waiting to drop. It almost looks like a pretty aggressive distribution pattern. You can see in SPX, again, this whole sideways top and just this market just bouncing around like a ping pong ball. We are not going to go short this market until we see the trend break. So we're watching it. We got the velocity already starting to drain, but the trend hasn't broken. So once this trend breaks, we will finally begin to head lower. So let's go quickly over here into some key signals. I want to go into some of these because I think this is kind of interesting. Let's look here. Let's go back to some of these. Those are some older ones. Look at this signal here, right? You notice here that we had this initial corrective move from 2000 down to 2003, and the signal came down, and then you notice that. You notice so we had this signal low here, then you notice we had another signal coming in, again the sell-off and the signal low in 2009, and all these signals rising up here to the top. Now that's interesting because just at the beginning of 2026, that signal topped out. So that could be another indicator that we're very, very close. Now here's that same signal. And you can see that signal on this other signal model topped out in 2020, topped out in 2022, and is now topped out in 2026. It actually topped a little bit before 2026. You can notice that, again, that pattern. You see if I zoom in on this, you see all these candles just floating sideways like we saw in those other models. The signal topped out. But notice here in 2022, the signal topped out and we did the same thing. We floated sideways and then we collapsed. And you notice 2020, we had a few more candles and then we went down. So, this is parabolic looking too. You notice how this red has done a parabolic move. You notice we've had the top out here in the dot curve right here. Now notice we did not have a top out in the dot curve at the high of 2020 or 2024 too. It was still rising. So this is a little bit different animal here. So again, this is looking very much like we're really close. And we can see this rollover here. Notice this kind of stair-step pattern. Stair-step, stair-step higher, stair-step higher, stair-step higher. And notice here as the candles are hanging out here, we are now draining. So I want to see this stair-step pattern finish. This is going to be a very important model. This is breadth. We're watching this breadth model. And you notice this signal above here. You notice here was that little sell-off in 2025. Here was that little sell-off in 2023. And here was our bigger sell-off in 2022. But the signal is just starting to roll over up here. We've got two trends side by side there. Do you see them? Side by side. So we're looking for this to also roll over and head lower. But notice that right here, we've now broken out above for the first time of the dot curve of the V channel. So here we're priced nicely in the V channel. Here we're rising up to the top of the V channel, and now we've broken out, which is not good because this has to price back down here for breadth in the channel. So we're watching that. How do we know when there could be a major low? Well, look at this model of indexing. You notice this is a model of indexing, and everything is indexed, right? We've got all the major stock indexed into some sort of index, and all this indexed into that, and that indexed into this. All this indexing and all these ETFs, which are record numbers today, lift all boats. But boy, when all this stuff starts to unravel, with all this leverage, it's going to be interesting. With all these triple X's, and then over in London, they do 5 times of the U.S. market. So you can see here this low signal right here in 2015, and the market held. And you can see this low signal right here at the 2018. You can see this low signal here at the 2020 low even, right? You notice that? Notice that low signal, how it held the dot curve, because it stayed open the entire time and it couldn't break below here. Here's the sell-off in 2022. It held. And so now we're going to watch as this rolls over here going out to 2027, what happens again once it gets down here. So we're looking at this red signal more than the market, right? So that's going to be a timing signal. We're going to want to see how this now starts to develop going forward, because when that signal hits that line, that's going to be pretty important. Now, the advancers in the market are extremely weak. This is the entire market. And you can notice just the velocity draining out here. Notice how it's gone really vertical down right here now. The trend is breaking. The red indicator has hit a new record high as the trend is breaking. I think that's the same thing. There's those 5 candles again. This is a monthly, right? The same ones, right? Our hammer, gravestone doji, and then our spinning tops up here. It looks really ripe. So this red now is back at the top of the velocity channel, and it's got a price back down here. But this could get pretty aggressive once that starts to under one. Because remember, just in the S&P, 16.73% of the S&P are 5 stocks. They're Meta, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google are 16.73% of the SPX. And on the NDX, there's 10 stocks that are like 48% of the NDX. It's very thin market. So we're watching what I call the top 5 here. You notice it's finally starting to roll over here. You see it working up and working up. And even in that corrective move in 2025, we were still deep in the trend. We can't go any higher. So I want to really, really keep an eye on that. And actually, where was it that I had? Oh, 10 stocks here. Here, it's right here. So I put this in because I think this is interesting, right? 9 companies are 48.13% of the NDX. Apple at 10%, Microsoft at 9%, Amazon at 5%, NVIDIA, Meta, Tesla, Google, Broadcom, and Costco are 48% of the NDX. Wow. So let's move on. Look at this model right here. And then I think we'll get in a few of these trades because we're at 15 minutes. I want to cut this off soon. Notice here, when this red indicator went down, that was when the sell-off was already happening out of the 2000 top. You notice when this was coming down, that was the sell-off out of the 2007 top. And what's interesting, notice when that signal got to the low, that was the low in the market. Here, the signal turned, but we came up a little. We didn't quite time to the total low, but we knew it was getting pretty low, so we had to hunt for a low. Here it is again, that signal going down in 2020. Now notice I put this box. Do you see how price floated out before it broke? It broke, so look, it was coming down and then it finally broke. Well, look at today. Our signal's breaking and we're still floating out here, right? So doesn't this fit that theme of everything else I was showing you, that this is dangerous? Very dangerous. So what we're going to watch now is for this probably to have a pretty aggressive break move, because this was a signal of the bigger moves of 2000, 2007, and 2020, right? And here we are again. This is setting up for potentially a big move. Now we're going to watch it because obviously as this comes down, the market will sell off. You see the whole time it was going down, we were selling off. The whole time it was going down, we were selling off. So this will be a good timing model too. We're going to keep an eye on this. So in other words, as long as this trend is breaking lower, the red is going to break lower, and this will continue to push down. So that's going to be a great timing model. Here's another one here. I don't want to get too much, but let's look at it. You notice here back when we had this break in March, April 2025, you see how the trend all broke down and got aggressive here. Well, now we notice the velocity is coming out again, and the trend is just starting to roll over. Another signal that we could be ready. We did roll over here and it was able to rebuild. So we don't want to see this rebuild. We want to see, we can see the velocity draining, but now we need to see that trend begin to drain. And that needs to happen. So let's see what else we can go real quick. Let's go into some of these trades because this is some of the stuff I'm setting up. Here we're watching this. This is TECL. This is the Teckle trade if you want to go on the other side. In the TEX trade, you notice that we still haven't topped out here. So you can see that the trend is still building up. The velocity is well below but flat. You see back here in 2020 how the two of them were just dropping, right? And you can see this sell-off here in 2025, trend down, velocity down, corrective move. So we need to see on the Teckle model for the tech, we need to see that top out. And we're watching that. That's the SPX, which I already showed you. And we're looking at. Here's Soxel. Teckle and Soxel we're watching real closely. I don't want to short Sox yet. We're chasing it because you can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, almost 5 bars there. 4, we could take that 1 there. But you got 4 or 5 bars there now, just trending sideways. The velocity's not breaking. The bars aren't breaking. Until this all rolls over, I do not want to be early on shorting yet. But I would not be long. I would not be long tech and I would not be long semiconductor. but we got to wait and see till it's going to break. You can see here that same idea as we saw in healthcare. There is your momentum top right there in the semiconductors, right there in the middle point of 2024. We came up, and then you can see, look at that, Soxel went from 65 all the way down to 7. What a buy that was. Rallied back up, and now we're above the V channel again here. You see, above the V channel, wants to break down. So it's definitely ripe, but we need to see the trend. You see, we still got the trend building up here. We need to see the trend break before we're going to go into that. There's a semiconductor model, same idea. You notice how the signal's just spinning up top here. You notice here when we had this bigger sell-off here in the semis from May of 2024 into early 2025, when we had that huge move down from 69 to 7 in Soxel, and it just collapsed, right? And then, of course, it built back up. So we still don't have a breakdown up here. We're watching it, right? That's an actual semiconductor model. So we want to see some of these breakdowns in the semiconductor model. Now we're looking at finance as well. We're watching banking. We're watching the NASDAQ finance model. And, of course, we're watching FAS. Now, look, FAS has a signal top there at that 184. So there's your first sign that we've got a top in finance. So you can see we're chasing that. But we're not going to go short finance just yet. We want to short finance, but we're just not going to do it yet. Again, you can see we've got the trend, the velocity breaking away, the trend trying to break, but this whole structure here, which has been building since, you can see it all topping out. Finance has been topping out since August of 2024. We're looking at almost a year and a half now of this top here, right? So you didn't want to, if you were early on this, boy, a year and a half waiting, it would have eroded you to death. So we're watching that. We want to see that finance model break down. I mean, we want to see a breakdown also because we're watching that in banking. You see these three tops in banking, one here back in 2018, this other one in 2022, and now we've got this top here into 2026. So we want to see banking as well break down. So we're watching banking, we're watching the brokers. The broker dealers have been extremely strong. And I'm setting up a few other things I want to show my members there on those areas that I think are very important to be watching. And I think I showed you these two sectors, right? Defense is done here, topping out at 93.50. If you own defense, you want to be selling it. 15 to 93, beautiful. So defense is done, healthcare is done, right? You see there again, there's that top out, there's that second top out, and it's ready to drop back into the V channel. So both defense and healthcare are ready to sell off. So we're watching that. We're watching that. There's a lot we're watching. So that is kind of, I think, what I wanted to show you for today. There's some other things we could get into another day as far as the technicals, and I'll keep you updated on that. This is some stuff here that I don't think I need to go into today. So I think we're just going to cut it off there, leave it at that, finish this up. I'll keep you up to date. I at least wanted to give you an update. Make sure you watch that crypto video I put out because I think it's very interesting. And again, I mean, it's going to tell us crypto's not going to break down. The Bitcoin model is a lot stronger than the ETH model. The bigger ones are more strong. But when you look at something like Cardano, it's an absolute disaster. And I think it's an interesting video. I might even do a video on crypto to look at a lot of the altcoins just to kind of show you. It's really interesting to look at the models of the altcoins, even though I don't trade those. Those things have just been absolutely decimated, and I expect a lot of them to go out of business. I think that'll happen. Anyway, have yourself a great weekend. Be back at you soon, and thanks for tuning in. Glenn out.